Have you ever looked at a government document and just scratched your head? Well, that's exactly what we're doing today. We're diving into Executive Order 14232, and trust me, what it says on the tin is not what's inside. It's a really fascinating puzzle that shows how policy gets made in the real world. So let's jump in.
Okay, so here is the official title, and wow, it is a mouthful. Amendment to Duties to Address the Flow of Illicit Drugs Across Our Southern Border. But, the key part seems pretty straightforward, right? Illicit drugs across our southern border. You're thinking, okay, this is going to be about security, enforcement, that kind of stuff. But, yeah, this is where things get weird.
Because when you actually crack this thing open, the words drugs or border security, they're almost nowhere to be found. Instead, the entire order is laser-focused on, wait for it, auto parts and potash. Yep, a type of fertilizer. I know, right? It makes absolutely no sense on the surface.
And that is the big mystery we're trying to solve today. What is the connection? How in the world do you get from stopping illicit drugs to making special rules for car parts and fertilizer? To figure this out, we have to go back in time. Just a little bit.
All right. First things first, to understand this order, you've got to know it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's actually a correction, an amendment, to another order that came just before it. And that's our starting point.
And hey, just a quick refresher for anyone who's a little fuzzy on this. An executive order is basically a directive from the president. It's a pretty big deal because it carries the force of law and it lets the president manage how the government operates without having to pass a whole new law through Congress. Now check out this timeline. The first order, EO 14194, comes out on February 1st. Our order, the amendment, is signed on March 6th. That's just over a month. In the world of government and policymaking, that is lightning fast. This wasn't some long-planned adjustment. This was a rapid course correction.
So you can kind of think of it like this. The first order was a giant paintbrush covering a huge area. This new one, it's like a tiny, fine-tipped pen coming in to make some very precise changes. So what exactly did it change?
Well, once you cut through all the dense legal speak, this whole big document really boils down to just two things, two key changes.
First up, and this one is huge, it creates a major exemption just for the auto industry. Basically, it says, hey, those new tariffs we just put on goods from Mexico, they don't apply to car parts that are already part of the USMCA trade deal. For automakers, this is a massive relief.
And change number two is all about that fertilizer we mentioned, potash. The original order slapped a 25% tariff on it. This new order slashes that tariff all the way down to 10%. That is a huge price cut and a really big deal for anyone in agriculture.
Okay, so we've got the what? A big break for cars and a big break for potash. But that just brings us back to the big question. Why? Why these two things specifically? And why was it so important to fix this so fast? Well, it turns out the order itself tells us exactly why. Yeah, there's no real mystery here. The document is super clear about it. Right there in the text, it says, the goal is, and I'm quoting here, to minimize disruption to the United States automotive industry and automotive workers. So this wasn't some random afterthought. It was a very targeted move to protect a very specific part of the economy. But why give the auto industry this special protection? Well, the order lays it all out. It's not just about building cars. It's about everything that comes with it. All the jobs, the innovation, and that incredibly complex supply chain that links the US, Mexico, and Canada. From the government's perspective, a strong auto industry is actually a matter of national security. So let's pull back and look at the big picture. We've solved the puzzle of why an order about drugs is actually about cars and potash. But what does this whole thing really teach us about how government works in the real world? What we're looking at here is a perfect, real-time example of policy being fine-tuned on the fly. It shows that making laws isn't this clean, straight line. You can put out a big, broad policy, and sometimes it has side effects you didn't expect. This order is basically the government going, whoops, okay, let's fix that, and doing it quickly. It's basically a real-world example of a feedback loop. Step 1, you roll out a big policy. Step 2, you listen to the reaction and realize, uh-oh, this might really hurt a critical industry. So you move to step 3. You make a very specific, almost surgical change to fix the problem without throwing out the whole original plan. It can look a little messy, but it's how things often have to work. And really, that leaves us with this one big, fascinating question.
This whole situation is just a perfect snapshot of a constant struggle in government. How do you push for a huge national security goal, like the one in the title, without causing chaos in the complex, tangled-up global economy we all live in? As this document shows, there's no simple answer. There's just a constant dance of making a move, seeing what happens, and adjusting as you go.